So, welcome back to the Theatres of Dreams football podcast. It has seemed like ages since we've done this. It's Rod Maxwell here and Harry Morell. Harry, how are you?
Oh, I'm not so bad. I would say I enjoyed my brief sabbatical from the airways with you, Rod. But come Monday night, that all came crumbling down. Uh, Poor football, and again, one of the rare times I'm actually at Old Trafford going to secure a ticket. I see yet another Manchester United loss. So I'm hoping that this can act as a bit of therapy thought for me today, if you don't mind.
Well, do you know what? It just goes to show sometimes a rest is as good as a break doesn't work. They hadn't played for, was it 21 days?
Yeah, 21 days, and it looked as if you would have thought that the fact that Leeds, they'd had the FA Cup the week before, gone the whole distance with West Ham, thought they'd be the ones who looked like they had tired legs. But our lads looked as if they hadn't seen a football their whole entire lives. It was, I think, if anything, it was the greatest advertisement for the fact that we need more regular football and the fact we need to stay in cup competitions. But we can't do anything about that now other than trying to secure the Champions League football with what is 6 games left. And do you know what? They can't come quick enough, if you ask me.
Yeah. No, uh, you know me, I don't remember games very, very well, but obviously there was the red card on 56. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Do you think it was a blatant and instant red card?
Well, they say with VAR it has to be blatant, as you said. Where we were in the stadium, everybody was just completely shocked why the referee blew up in the first place. The game just completely seemed to stop. Then it said it's going to a VAR, and everybody had no idea whatsoever what it was for. Yes, we were sort of row Z of Z right at the back of the second tier, but still nobody could see it. And then all the phones go round, and you see all the clips, and it's like you're giving it for that because it almost feels like he's tried to pull his bobble out than anything, almost as if he's gone up to try and halt to keep the player at arm's distance and just caught Calvert Lewin's long hair. I think just looking at Bruno's reaction, manager's reaction, and Martinez's reaction, they obviously can't believe it's been given, and it's yet another suspension for United's backline that we've got to deal with because the day after, Harry Maguire has been told that he's got another game out as well. So it's yeah, it seems like a lot of decisions aren't going our way, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole saying the referees are against us.
No, 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 I know, but it felt a bit soft, but you also sort of think, was it too easy to send Martinez off? Does he have a bit of form, if you like, and anything he does is seem to be more villainous, if you like?
Yeah, if I'm honest though, Rod, I was just confused as to why we were starting Martinez because I know he's been injured for a long time. And the last time we tried to rush him back, he picked up another injury and he was out for a long period of time. But that game, the fact that we've had, as you said, a significant period out, the fact it's also against arguably historically some of our biggest rivals, you don't really want to be putting someone who is not 100% there. Even if you're 100% fitness, if you've not played for a long time, you're not 100% there. I think he was just sort of put in a difficult position. Obviously, not helped by the fact that Dillick's out, Maguire's out. It wasn't great. So I feel like there's got to be question marks around the decision making in the first place. But if you think of red cards for hair pulling, for instance, if you look at the women's game, for instance, normally it's like a proper shove pull of the hair. So if you I don't know if you can remember, but Joey Chiellini grabbed Saka's by the scruff of the shirt and he was quite literally pulled back. I can see that as being violent conduct or something like that. But way that Martinez, it's almost like he stroked his, if it was Baggio, his divine ponytail. It just felt like he was trying to give it a little stroke rather than doing anything malicious. It just seems as though we've, again, it's the fact that nothing is absolutely defined as to what the decision is because a pull could be anything. It's all depends on the referee, and clearly the referee didn't use common sense in that regard. I think it's going to be a difficult one, and do you know what? I can't imagine a lot of them will be getting called next time round. I'd love it if the manager said though, right, everybody's going to have the buzz cut like Frank or like me because I need a haircut, and then there's no complaints at all. Get the Beckham skinhead back, and then we don't need to worry about that letter of the law anyway.
It wouldn't have happened back in the 70s or 80s. That's for sure. I think it felt a bit soft, but then you
Hmm.
got to turn around and say, well, look, you know what referees are like, and you look at it in one angle, and it looks deliberate, and it looks, like you were trying to gain an advantage. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. And
I
it's not
think,
like Martin is just not a really experienced player.
yeah, I think the other thing that sort of frustrates a lot of United fans is there was Calvert-Lewin had left an elbow in on Martinez just a couple of minutes earlier, and it wasn't picked up by VAR. And again, I can sort of understand if the referee gave it on the spot because then it's a refereeing issue rather than VAR's issue. But because he's been referred to the screen, once he goes to that screen, you already know what the outcome's going to be. So again, it's sort of when VAR was brought in, it was told that it was going to be clear and obvious, and also it was going to be as least intrusive as possible. And it feels like that example from that game did the opposite of what I've just said there. It was intrusive, and it wasn't clear and obvious. If the referee didn't see it, and if half the players didn't see it, I think, yeah, it is a concern. But I think I'm pleased it's happening towards the end of the season because then it means that they can review, take stock, and hopefully it means that we're not dropping points over pulling of bobbles or stroking of hair in the future.
It's the first time Leeds have won at United in many years. Does the record go back to the 90s or before that? Can you remember?
1981 was the last time that Leeds United,
81.
yeah, beats us at Old Trafford. And as always, as you can imagine, there was all the ooh Cantonars and 10 Cantonars, all that. As soon as that goal went in, it felt like the whole soul came out of the stadium because those first 20, half an hour, it was just, we were just lackluster completely, and it just completely took the fire out of it. Yes, it came back towards the end of the second half, but it was just a little bit too little, too late. And the Leeds fans, that's arguably one of the biggest days for them because Old Trafford's always been a fortress for us against the All Whites anyway. And as you say, Rod, 1981, that's what, over 40 years of not winning at Old Trafford and then doing it there when United are third in the league and they're in the relegation scrap. If you were a neutral and looking at it and said, who do you think's in the relegation scrap? You would have said it was United because we just looked as if we'd sort of said, right, it's out of our control. We've sort of bowed out. So, yeah, doubly disappointing, especially when it's against one of your biggest rivals in the league as well.
Yeah, it did. It looked like we bottled it a bit. We just didn't turn up. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
look at match stats, it's sort of saying, yes, we had a fair amount of shots. We had 9 on target to their 6, 20 shots to their 15, but they had a better XG. But and in terms of but it was a very 50-50 game. I don't know anybody who really stood out for United. I'm trying to think about who did stand out.
Not not a tremendous amount. Even Le Mans in goal, he's normally he's normally really strong. Yes, the second goal was a deflection, but if you just look at his ball distribution, every single pass in the first half went to a white shirt. So he just in encouraging pressure and inviting pressure. And it just felt like Tesco as well. Normally, you see him on the starting 11, you think, right, this is going to be the game where he's going to really hit the ground running. He did a lot of work off the ball. Don't get me wrong, but it also felt like he was quite absent. And Diallo as well. He seems to be struggling on that right hand side, and Mazraoui got a start on the right as well. That right hand side looked super weak as well. It just seemed like the break had done more negatives than positives for us, which you'd think it'd do the absolute opposite. The fact we've had so much time to prepare for it. It'd be interesting to see how the manager takes stock and reflects and gets his players ready for Chelsea away. Because if you thought that Leeds was going to be a walkover, well,
Oh.
Leeds is never going to be a walkover. But with the record we've got at Old Trafford, you think it'd be quite smooth sailing. I think Chelsea, who are again, don't forget, they're in the hunt for Champions League football. They're going to want it, and we're going to have to be on it from the first minute, not the 46th minute, because that first half, as I said, we were non-existent.
I mean, it's unfair to pick out individuals because I think it's collectively we weren't on it. But Ugarte again doesn't
Hmm.
shore up the midfield, doesn't give you anything. For me, he's got to be out the door at the end of the
Yeah,
season, and he should have a lot more legs than Casemiro should.
yeah.
But he just doesn't. He doesn't seem to have any character on the field, if you like, no presence.
Mhm. No, I completely get that. I know we're not pointing fingers or naming names, but when we saw Agate walk out, everybody I think was quite shocked because I think a lot of United fans will think, well, he's not good enough, and his time in a red shirt is very quickly, very fastly coming to an end. So I think it's a concern the fact that Mainu wasn't there, wasn't on the bench, and I, I think the biggest
Yes.
issue from that game was when you look at that bench, it was who are we actually going to bring on for strength? The only one we really had to bring on was Brian Mbeumo. When he came on, he looked quite sharp. He looked like he had a bit of grit between his teeth, but wasn't given enough time for it. And then, as I said, the defensive line, the only person we had really to bring on was Dallo. So clearly, a lot of money needs to be spent because I know we're towards the tail end of the season, and yes, there are a few knocks, there's a few niggles, and players are starting to prepare for World Cup football because we've got that coming. But when you're against Leeds United, who are just floating above the relegation zone, you think you could be able to change some players around, but we didn't even have any spare bodies to bring on when things are going against us. So yeah, there's quite a lot of red flags in my book anyway, which are being raised after that game.
Well, you look at the bench and you sort of say, right, where are the goals coming from if we're lacking goals? And they're not coming from Xerxes. And Buemo is not a now goal scorer, right? I don't understand why he didn't start Mount
Mhm.
instead of Ugarte and let Casemiro do more defensive and give us a little bit more in midfield from an attacking point of view. Maybe Mount wasn't fully well, but I think the other thing about this, Harry, is it puts a lot of pressure now on the manager.
Yeah, it really really does because when he first came in, we were all sort of, as we're singing in a carrot wonderland, and it feels like the seasons have changed and the harsh reality of winter's coming through because the last few games we haven't quite been there. And to be fair to the manager, he's been handed a number of players who aren't his own. We've got a very diminished squad, as I said. Injury record is woeful at the moment, and then the suspension record is another thing as well. So he has got a lot going against him. I still think he's done the best job he could have done. It's just the fact that he got his great result at Anfield. He got his result with against City as well. It's just this one against Leeds. I think it hurts because it's rivals, big
Yes.
fierce rivals. It hurts the fact that the timing of it as well. The fact that there wasn't any excuse. There was tired legs, or we had other games to prepare for. It just if obviously we know there's issues with the books itself, but we need the managerial decision to be made soon as possible because if we've got to buy players as well, we still got to pay for a manager as well, which is going to be expensive. And I don't think what helps either is the managerial merry-go-round has started this week because Bournemouth announced the night after the United fixture that they're saying they're parting ways with Iraola at the end of the season. So the bookies at the moment say he's probably going to go back to his boyhood club of Atletico Madrid, which because Simeone's sort of I know he's got through in the Champions League, but there is some pressure on him. I think with Carrick, I still think a lot of fans would say he's the man, but I think if this game does anything, I think for me it makes us take stock and maybe says right, let's just take a breather, let's have one last look around before we make any major decisions because we he's done a good job. I just think we need this decision is going to define not just next season but seasons to come because we can't have another internal managerial merry-go-round anyway.
But you know what? We mustn't panic at the moment. You look at the table, we're sitting in third place, 55 points, joint with Aston Villa. Aston Villa have had a worse record over the last 6 games than us. They've had three
Mm-hmm.
defeats. They had three defeats in the trot, then a win and a draw. Our record over the last 6 games is matching Liverpool. Liverpool are sitting in fifth point. Fifth place would get you in the Champions League, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would get you into the Champions League because of how well the English teams have done in the European football. But the thing that I sort of admire about this team at the moment is our aims have adapted with the season. At first, it was getting the top half of the table. Then it was start getting mid-table. Then it was right. Let's try and get Conference League, and then it's gone to Europa. Then it's Champions League, and now realistically, we could be getting third in the league. So I think as Carrick, he would be keen to try and do the best he can because if he gets third place finish, that's I believe the second best finish we've had under a manager since Sir Alex Ferguson. So if you're talking about improving your stock, it's a pretty good way to go about it. Yeah,
Let's talk about the top of the table and the race for the championship because the weekend gave City a hint, a glimpse of positivity. They're currently 6 points behind now, but they picked up 3 points at the weekend on Arsenal. They've got a game in hand on them still. So you turn around and say they win that game in hand, they're going to be 3 points behind them. And this is now the big challenge for Arsenal, which is can Arteta keep that team confident? Can he keep them consistent? Can he get back after it's only one loss? But at this stage in the season, that can be a big mental challenge. And you just feel we said this before is that you just feel the juggernaut of City and and their manager's profile. Just that pressure is there at the moment. What do you think?
yeah. It's I think every fan other than an Arsenal fan would have been absolutely ecstatic with that result against Bournemouth. See, Bournemouth isn't for everybody. We've struggled and we got to draw at the Vitality, but for Arsenal, it seemed like the pressure of the Cherries was all too much for them. And I think as well, when they've been playing in the Premier League, they have sort of been struggling the last few games. It's not been easy. Like, yes, we were recording this on a Thursday morning. Last night they went through in the Champions League, but that wasn't convincing. A lot of people said Arsenal slumped to the next round in the Champions League, sort of parked the bus against Sporting Lisbon. There was only 2 shots on target in the entire game, so you can see it's having a mental impact, but it's also having a physical impact on the players as well. I think the best way to sort of frame this game we've got on the weekend, which I think could possibly be the game of the season, is a playoff match. You've got Manchester City versus Arsenal, first and second, and realistically, as you say, Rod, City are in the driving seat. If City win at home, then I feel like the ball is very much in their court. And how many times have we seen Arsenal sort of buckle under pressure? And that would be a tremendous amount of pressure with what only a handful of games to go.
And can you imagine having led and been so graceful in the way they played and confident,
Mm-hmm.
to trip up now. I don't think a young Arteta would get over that really in some ways. It's a big blot on your career.
Yeah, it's a big blow, and also you get that sort of that mental stigma in your mind. The fact that it's the fourth time that they've gone. If it goes the way it's going to go, fourth season on the trot without a trophy. Arsenal fans talked about an unprecedented quadruple this season, and they could do that with winning no trophies for 4 seasons in a row and coming second in the league 4 seasons in a row.
Let's talk about our beloved Ultra. They got back to winning ways. It was a narrow win against Eastleigh, and I'm just reminding myself where Eastleigh are in the table. They're just above the drop zone. They've got 46 points. Then it's Brackley Town in fourth from bottom on 39 points, and then at the bottom of the table is Truro City with 31 points. So there's a bit of a gap in that league establishing between the drop zone and staying up. Alti are in 51 points, and after a bit of a bad run, that's helped them. Did you see any of this game at all?
No, I was not there on Saturday for a rare occasion, but it's Tom Crawford again on the highlights. 18th minute getting that early goal, and for once there wasn't a last minute capitulation of Robin's success. Because how many times have we seen them either receive a red late or concede late? So I think a lot of Ulti fans will be very pleased to see that result, and also the fact that 3 points, he says, really opens up that gap now. So unless there's an absolute disaster class or the club receives a heavy points deduction, I sort of feel like that will secure the Robins for in the National League for at least another season to come. So it was all happy days on Saturday.
The Champions League now is hotting up. The quarterfinals have been this week, the second legs of these. Some surprises for me. Madrid, Atletico Madrid beating Barcelona in the quarterfinals, but beating them over two legs, 3-2 on aggregate. That's a real surprise for me. And then Liverpool were sort of taken to the sword, weren't they, overall by Paris Saint-Germain? Dembele with a brace. That was 4-0 overall in aggregate, 2-0 on the night. And then going into Wednesday night, Arsenal slipped through against Sporting Lisbon, a 1-0 from the previous game, 0-0 on the night in London. And Bayern Munich beating Real Madrid. Real Madrid with two red cards in the game last night away. That's interesting, isn't it, in terms of the Spanish teams not doing particularly well?
Yeah, I think that Bayern Real Madrid game was just a cacophony of chaos, really. It was goal fest, red cards, as you say, and it was it just makes me think about Vincent Company, the fact that three years ago he was relegated with Burnley, and
Burnley.
now we're talking about him possibly being one of the best managers in European football at the moment, and possibly as well having having a European honours in his second season at Bayern. It was I definitely think now that Bayern Munich are very much sort of the driving force in the competition at the moment. If you look at the players they've got and the fact that they were able to overturn Real Madrid in such was I wouldn't quite say emphatic style, but the fact they were able to do the job. With that Atletico Madrid game as well, that was the third time that Atletico Madrid have knocked out Barcelona in the Champions League. Diego Simeone doing it again. And as I said before, he has had a bit of pressure on him from the new owners. Maybe it's time for a change. I think Simeone will be very, very pleased with that result because it sort of shows his worth, and also it's getting one over the big rivals in Spain. The less said about the Arsenal game, the better, because as I said, I believe there was three shots on target in the entire game. So I think it was very much parking the bus. But if you look at the draws for the semi-finals now, Arsenal have got Atletico Madrid. That's going to be a difficult game. And then you've got Bayern. You've got Bayern on the other side of the draw against PSG. I think we've got two pretty tasty ties. If I'm honest, I sort of, as I said, I think it would be Bayern. It's sort of Bayern's tournament to lose, but
Bayern
they've got a difficult game to play. So yeah, I can't wait to see the semi-finals. Let's just hope that come the Arsenal game, it'll be a little bit more entertaining than what we saw last night. Anyway.
You know, the thing that strikes me, I was traveling last night back from Northern Ireland, so I didn't see any of the game, but just looking at the stats, he's managed to turn Bayern into a very aggressive, offensive, and what would appear exciting team. 21 shots last night to 12 from Madrid, you know, and it would appear that they're a good team to watch.
Yeah, they are. We know what Bayern Munich are. They're a juggernaut of German football, and they used to buy all of their players from the other teams, the best players from other teams within Germany. Now they're starting to look further afield. The fact you've got Kane, who is having arguably the season of his life. If he wins wins the Bundesliga and potentially a World Cup, could that be the first English Ballon d'Or winner since Michael Owen? We've also got Elise, who's doing tremendously well since his move from South London. You've got Diaz as well. I think he's definitely being missed over in Merseyside. So they've got a tremendous front three, and they clearly seem to be working as well, working like an absolute well-oiled machine. And I just think Harry Kane, the fact that when he was at Tottenham, they're saying this could be the greatest player never to win a trophy. He's already got one under his belt in Germany, and I think he'll be hoping to get the league wrapped up sooner rather than later. But yeah, Company, it sort of shows even if you get relegated, it doesn't mean that you're down and out forever, because you talk about a comeback story, that's pretty impressive.
Just something that's coming to my mind while we're talking, and just stay with me on this at the moment. We've been assuming all this time that Vincent Company's dead, nailed on to go to City. Now the question is, when will Pep leave the club, right? And when will company think it's a good time to move on from Bayern? But I'm just wondering, would there be any chance that Vincent Company could be persuaded to come to Manchester United?
I doubt it very, very much. A, with his affiliations with Manchester City, and B, why would you want to leave Bayern Munich at the moment where you could possibly carve another greatest front three argument with that Kane, that Diaz, and Elise because they're absolutely well, it's like not quite MSN, but it's they seem to be really making a name for themselves. Obviously, he is going up in stock. It wouldn't surprise me if he did go to Manchester City, but I just can't see him coming to United, and it's a difficult one because you would sort of want to go, yes, let's have him because he's doing so well in European football, but at the same time with that affiliation with City, it's a bit sort of and ahhing about it, and I don't really think he quite fancies this side of Manchester, if you ask me.
No, I'm sure he doesn't, and I'm interested. I'm toying with the idea because, yeah, as you say, why would he want to come to United when he's doing so well with Munich and he's winning all the time? Then, of course, the consideration, and of course, everybody's thinking he's nailed on to go to City, and just when will that happen? But down through the generations, it's not been completely unheard of players and managers to switch colours. And it was just something that came
Just,
into my mind. Right.
just as
So,
I was just going to say, just to stick on that, if company didn't move from Bayern, and we know that Pep's is going to be leaving Manchester City, who do you think would be going in, if company says, "Oh, I don't fancy it because I'm doing my success in Bayern"? Who do you think would be going in at City then? Because what sort of names are they? And this is the thing that I'm sort of struggling with United is uh, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of. I know United do have that sort of law power that they can pull managers out of contracts, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of world class names out there at the moment.
there was that assistant, I forget which club he was at recently, who was considered, I think he's an assistant in a club in London, and I think he's Spanish, but I don't know. And I think it depends what way you want to take your whole infrastructure of football.
Mm. Yeah.
It's I have no doubt Pep is the manager. I think we all know that,
Hmm.
and he makes the calls. Would City consider moving to more of a coaching type thing with the director of football being more strongly involved? I don't know. Part of me thinks Pep will go another year.
Hmm.
I don't think that if City if City win the league, he might go another year because he wants Champions League. If they don't win it, and who knows, it's really on the balance at the moment. We know that. It might be a case if he doesn't want to go out with this
Hmm.
legacy at the moment, although he's got a
Yeah.
superb legacy. It's just it's bizarre, and I think what's interesting at the moment is that we often talk about player transfers, and we get hyped up, and gossip is all about player transfers. I think really at the moment it's actually as exciting looking at the managerial options and changes because you don't have as many of the older profile managers being nailed on for the bigger clubs. You've got a new wave of manager coming in. And some people might turn around and say, "Oh, they're not very experienced," but they've been managing for a number of years,
Hmm.
and the style of football infrastructure is changing.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's quite an interesting time if you just look at it from the managerial or coach roles as well. And I think when it comes to United, we have said this again before in the podcast, we are scarred by the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer situation, 100%. And I think that is to the detriment of Carrick at the moment, you know. That's what's holding things back. Anyway, let's just talk a little bit of, wider. I see that Garnacho's possibly on the move again. He's not slotted in at Chelsea, has he?
No, I tell you what, the comments you're saying about it didn't exit in the best way that I could have done. I think you can say that again. It was sort of talk about burning bridges and ripping it all up and starting again. I felt like he's sort of done that with Chelsea a little bit as well. He's not quite been that superstar player with that superstar price tag. When Chelsea were being battered in the Champions League by PSG, turning to Garnacho, giving him all the instructions. they were 6-0 down for Pete's sake. He was a great player at his time, but even though, I don't think Cristiano could have got you 6 goals in the Champions League against PSG. I think if anything, they'll be using this story with Garnacho, with young players for a long time to come. Here's what you don't do with public relations when you leave a club, because if you do tarnish your legacy, you very quickly moved on if things don't go to plan. So I'd be interested to see where he ends up. But yeah, he was giving it all the big uns, saying, I'm going to go to Chelsea, I'm going to set the world to right, but it's clearly not happened for him in the capital. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he goes, and how his language choices change a little bit as well, and see if he's gonna, well, pour the petrol out and light the match, and see if it goes boom for him in the at Stamford Bridge.
Another one of our sort of unfortunate alumni is having a bit of a time. And this, I don't know if you saw this, Memphis Depay, who's now in Brazil, has been given a lengthy ban, £25 million. No, it wasn't 12. He was given a lengthy ban, sorry, for using his phone during a match. They obviously consider he might have been doing a bit of betting or something like that. So he's now playing for Corinthians, and he was spotted on the subs bench scrolling on his phone during their 1-1 draw with Flamengo, and now he is facing a ban. Yeah, you sort of think to yourself, goodness, you don't do yourself any favors.
No, not at all. So it's. I think if you're gonna want to stop people from doom scrolling like myself, maybe introduce £25,000 fines for using your phone on the side of a football pitch. I think that'd be a good way to go about it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think I've actually ever seen players use the phone on the side of a football pitch. It's almost like you used to see smoking on the side of a football pitch by
Yeah.
managers. I've just never seen phones. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the actual fine is, but interesting to see.
Yeah, and something else. Apparently, Newcastle are looking to bolster their midfield options in the summer, and I was sort of wondering. I wonder, could we tease them with Manuel Ugarte? And
Oh,
but I can't imagine they would do a swap deal for Tonali. But if they want to bolster their midfield,
I'll tell you what though, Rod, if you look at how much money they've spent on strikers since selling Alexander Isak, they've spent 124 million quid bringing Wisa in and the likes. And it looks as if, well, it's clearly not worked for them, has it? You're just looking at the back pages and all the papers, and you're looking at the gossip columns. They've got Gordon to go to Bayern. You've got the fact that Tonali's looking at going elsewhere. You've got the fact that Voltemada wants to go back to Germany. When it was announced that Newcastle were going to be taken over by the by Saudi Arabian by the Saudi Arabian government, you thought, oh, this is going to be Newcastle are going to be up there with City. It's going to be as soon as that money comes in, they're going to be walking away with it. But this season, it sort of shows no matter how much money you spend. Look at Liverpool as well; it doesn't automatically bring you success. So I think they'd be quite keen to keep the wage bills and their expenditure down. So I mean, if you want Manuel Ugarte, we'll give a little transfer deal, a little swap deal for Tonali. I think that'd
oh,
be a fair deal if you ask me.
that would be really tidy. And last little piece of gossip I picked up was John Joe Shelby has moved into the management role. He's in the Emirates apparently, and managing Arabian Falconers FC. He'll be an interesting manager to deal with, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he's the sort of manager you want to brass off. He's got that short fuse and that fiery temper. Not quite. I don't think it's going to be quite the same as having Roy Keane in the dressing room as Sunderland manager. But yeah, John Joe, I think he could be quite a intimidating presence in the dressing room. That's for sure.
And he's only 34 actually, but of course with his profile he looks a bit older than that. But there you go. As you say, I don't think I would want to be playing for him. That would be really interesting. And a shout out actually to our Erin, because she in as well as being a great podcaster and also a very very good match commentator. She also is a county referee. She's doing the county cup final. She's in the selection for county cup final, I
Oh
believe.
wow.
There you go. So there you go. Right. Now let's turn to the weekend. I've got to say it's squeaky bum time. Tonight, of course, there is the Europa League. Forest are in action. It's 1-1 against Porto from the first leg. And Villa are in action. They're 3-1 up against Bologna from the first leg. Those are both home games tonight. Wish them well. There's also some UEFA Conference League games. Doesn't involve any English or British sides at all. There's one game in the League One. It's probably Peterborough United versus Port Vale, and Bromley play Cambridge United in League Two. Let's go to the Premier League. And at the weekend, we're down in Chelsea. It's the 8 o'clock Saturday night game. This is, I don't know. They're in sixth. They're not going brilliantly, but they've actually done better than us in the last. Well, actually, no, they haven't. They've had 4 defeats in the last 5 games.
Yeah, they have been struggling, but we have as well. You'd sort of hope that this would be the bounce back moment following the disappointment at Leeds. But with the news as we now know that Martinez is going to be out for that game with a suspension. Maguire's going to be out for that game with a suspension. It's who we going to have playing at centre back. Would it be the fact that Luke Shaw will maybe drop down to play in sort of like the left side of centre back role, and then you have Aidan Heaven come in? Either way, that back line is going to look a little bit shaky. So you sort of hope that we'll have the firepower up top to go and hopefully get a few goals, because Sanchez hasn't been performing very well between the sticks. But yeah, that back line is going to be a big concern for us.
It is, and I mean I've heard talk about dropping Casemiro in there, for example, rather than playing Heaven and Lenny together.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know about that, because it at least with those two you got legs in there, and you could
Mm-hmm.
always put Casemiro a little bit deeper. So the lineup was going to be very interesting. It's a big game for both clubs because Chelsea will want. Well, can they push their way into Champions League consideration? Really depends, I think, on Liverpool's form.
The other thing is as well, you talk about forms of the other teams. We, with the fact that we've lost that Leeds United game, we've almost been drawn back into the sort of that big fight for those places. Chelsea, they've got another sort of trump card. The fact that if they, so they're still in the FA Cup, if they win that, they'll receive a place into the Europa League. So it will sort of move things around a little bit. But for United, we sort of just need to. There's not a lot of games left. We've also got Liverpool at home coming up, which is going to be a tough game as well. And we're away on the last day of the season at Nottingham Forest, who, if you look at the table at the moment, they're sort of really trying to fight out of that relegation zone. So you could sort of see it being quite a difficult run of games. Even that Brentford game at home, I think we might struggle with that. So if we can, when we win, we sort of start getting that momentum and that confidence back in the squad, because it just felt like there wasn't anything there on Monday night. So hopefully we see bit of changing around from the manager, maybe bringing Mount, as you say. I think he would be suited in that game, and just as long as we get the decisions right on the players we put out, hopefully we can try and shine in at Chelsea, because as you say, Rod, they are struggling, and we know we can beat them. Just got to go out with full gusto for the full 90, not just the last 45.
Yeah, I mean, they've had 3 losses in a row out of the last 6 games. They've only won one game and drawn one, so 4 points out of a possible 18. We've just got to be confident of where we are and remember how low we were in the table and where we climbed back to. I do think, though, a lot of it is in Carrick's decision making with his first 11 and the timing of some subs. But again, you need Sesko to be on form, you need Bruno to be on form. It's actually a huge game, Harry,
Yeah. But again, it's a huge, we could very easily go down the thing to say it's a huge game for the rest of the season, blah, blah, blah. But I sort of, if it was me and I was trying to spin it for the lads, I'd say this is a huge game for Carrick to show his quality and crucially what he can do right and well. You talk about the substitutions, bringing in the right players. He's got a chance now where, because he's got the suspensions, he's got a chance to sort of show, look, my back's against the wall. I can make some fast decisions and hopefully make the right decisions with the back line, and maybe bringing in Mbumo on the right wing and dropping Diallo back into to right back, that sort of thing. There is still a lot to be won. Champions League football, another 3 points, and confidence as well. But it's that last thing, that confidence. If we can go down to London, I know it's a late kickoff. It is on a Saturday for once, which is a rare occasion for us at the moment, Rod. But if we can go down there and at least have have some of a fight and get some confidence in the players, I'd feel a heck of a lot better for the next couple of home games. And yeah, hopefully we'll try and get that Champions League contract secured and also the football secured as soon as possible.
I'm just looking at the fixtures for the weekend. I was actually looking for Ultram's fixtures in the National League. Can you remember off the top of your head where they're playing?
Yes, I can. So
Oh,
this
yes,
weekend they're at home to they're away, sorry, to Sutton United
they
on
are.
the 18th of April. So yeah, we're very much, as I say, in the squeaky bum time, sort of end of the season. Not so much for Altrincham because they're currently sat in 15th. Sutton sat in 18th on 47 points. A win for them would put them 1 point behind Altrincham. But with the relegations of Truro City and Braintree Town, and it looking and Morecambe as well being secured, there's only the one final relegation spot. So I think Altrincham can just sort of enjoy the last few games of football at the J Davison this season. Hopefully, we can get another win for the Robins.
It is squeaky bum time right across it, isn't it? You know, and the thing is now, it's not just about the top position in the championship, if you like. There are so many other things to play for. So there you go. Last thing to say, have you seen Gary Neville's been splashing the cash again in his media empire?
Yeah, it has. You would. It's, I was expecting him to do that, but buying Mark Goldbridge's YouTube channels was not on my bingo cards this season. I don't know if he fancies buying any more channels and investing. I'd be keen. Would you?
Harry, he came to us, but the money just wasn't right. And he wanted you as an exclusive and Aaron. And he said, to be honest with you, Rod, you can bugger off. And I said, well, you know, the money's not right, Gary. And, you know, I sort of like doing this, you know.
Yeah.
So he went for Mark instead. I'll tell you what, it's interesting, isn't it? Really interesting.
Yeah, it shows exactly where football and the media is going as well. And just speaking on the podcast, I think I was watching the Tyson Fury fight the other day on Netflix, and they did a big thing on Gary Lineker and his the rest is football because they're doing their special thing for the World Cup. It's been like the first time that Netflix will have their own sort of challenger for Match of the Day. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes. But it shows podcasts seems to be the future. So theatres of dreams, you know, just watch this space. I think is the right thing to say.
Well, there you go. That has been the Theatres of Dreams. You've been listening to Harry Morell and Rod Maxwell. We will be back next week, hopefully with our Aaron, and we'll talk a little bit more with you then. Thanks for listening. Take care. See you, Harry.
See ya.